We're in 6th grade. Happy lesson 41 in math class today. Okay, you're doing Power Up I for the first time. That's based on working with proportions that we did in lesson 39 and trying to solve those. So I'll go a little bit slower because it's the first time we got those and just explain what I did. So I'm always looking to find a pattern. I did 4 times 3 to get 12, so 3 times 3 would have been 9. 3 times 4 is 12, so 4 times 4 is 16. Now I'm going the other way. 20 divided by 4 is 5, so 12 divided by 4 is 3. 2 times 6 is 12, but I got to go the other way, so 12 divided by 6 is 2, so 24 divided by 6 is 4. 8 divided by 2 is 4, 12 divided by 2 is 6. Next row. 5 times 2 is 10, so 10 times 2 is 20. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 divided by 5 is 5, so 100 divided by 5 is 20. 10 divided by 2 is 5, so 100 divided by 2 is 50. 4 times 4 is 16, so 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 3 is 24, 6 times 3 is 18. Third row. 9 times 4 is 36, 12 times 4 is 48. Second one, I chopped off the 0, so instead of 50 over 100, I have 5 over 10. Then I could see 10 times 3 is 30, so 5 times 3 is 15. Next one I just solved by cross multiplication, which we did in lesson 39. So I did 9 times 5, got 45, divided it by 3 is 15. The other thing you could have done is you could have reduced 3/9 to 1/3. And then said 1 times 5 is 5, 3 times 5 is 15. So you can always reduce those guys if it doesn't work. Second to last one, 20 times 3 is 60, so 15 times 3 is 45. Last one, 5 times 20 gave me 100, so 2 times 20 is 40. Find what works best for you. If it's finding reduced fractions and then multiplying across, or feel free to do that cross multiplication and division, whatever one you're most comfortable with. Your letters would read like this. Letter A, 5 times 140 is 700. B, times 10 slides it to the right one, 15 and 4/10. Times 5 on the top, times 5 on the bottom gives you 25. 5 squared 25 minus 4 squared 16 gives you 9. Estimate 40 and 30 is 1,200. Divide by 10 is 7 times 3 is 21. Explain what the mode is. The one that occurs the most. Find the sum, difference, product, and quotient for all those fractions. So to add them, I find common denominators. 4/6 plus 3/6 is 7/6, which equals 1 1/6. Difference, 4/6 minus 3/6 is 1/6. Product means multiply. I canceled the 2's. I was left with 1/3. Quotient, stay, change, flip. That flips the 1/2 to 2 over 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. I have 4/3, which equals 1 1/3. It says use a simpler but similar problem to find the quotient of 1 divided by 50 trillion. Okay, guys, here's what I did to find a simpler, smaller thing. I just did 5 divided by 1. Got an answer of 0.2. Then I did it again. 50 divided into 1, and I got an answer of 0.02. So I noticed no 0, no 0, 1 0, 1 0. Check my plan one more time. 500 gave me 2 zeros here, gave me 2 zeros after the decimal point. 50 trillion has like 13 zeros. So what's my answer? It's 13 zeros. 13, and then put a 2 on the end. Put a 2 at the end of it. Okay, so that's all they're getting at. Now, guys, by the time I did all this, you know what? You might have just written the regular division problem out there and done the division problem. They're just trying to get you to think differently. In math, we like to say, hey, there's always more than one way to solve a math problem. And one of my major goals this year is to say, can I think of different ways to solve a math problem? Think what you just did on the top of your power up. Some of you cross-multiplied. Some of you reduced fractions. Some of you said, I'm going to multiply the bottom by the same thing I multiply the top. That's like 2 or 3 different ways to solve the same problem to be able to get it. Speaking of more than one way to solve a problem, guys, you're going to learn there's another way to do parentheses today, and that's called the distributive property, and it's going to change the way we look at math class because you've always been taught do what's in parentheses first, and today we're going to say you don't have to. All right, let's get rolling on it. That's the second part of our lesson, distributive property. First part of our lesson is using formulas. It said in lesson 20, it was stated that the area of a rectangle is related to the length and the width of the rectangle. A equals LW. This formula means that the area of a rectangle equals the product of its length and width. If we are given measures length and width, we can replace the letters in the formula with the numbers and calculate the area. Number one, find A when A, LW, when L is 8 and W is 4. So guys, they're just giving to you formulas like now, and now you stick in the numbers. So letters next to each other mean multiply. I'll quick write it out, but all you're doing is 8 times 4 is 32. Woohoo! And then you're going to get the label of feet squared. So using formulas, you guys have been doing it for a long time. It's kind of easy. At the bottom under example 1, it says, notice the effects of the units when calculations is performed. Multiplying 2 units equals the result in a unit of area. Example 2, evaluate 2L plus W when I have the same numbers. So now, I got 2L plus W, and they say now you have 2, 8 plus 4. And this is going to go right into what we're going to talk about today. So you've taught, hey, add them together. 8 plus 4 is 12. Then times it by 2 and get 24. Today you're going to learn to distribute. And distribute means pass those numbers through like this. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 4 is 8. And 16 plus 8 is also 24. Okay, you just got a quick distributive lesson before we even got there. Anyway, you look at it, guys, the answer for example 2 is 24. I think we're working in centimeters, so make sure you label it centimeters. All right, the distributive property. It says, there are 2 formulas commonly used related to perimeter of a rectangle and its length and width. Formula number 1 equals 2 parentheses L plus W, or 2L plus 2W. Both formulas describe how to find the perimeter of a rectangle if we are given the length and the width. The first formula means add the length and the width and then double the sum. The second formula means double the length and then double the width and then add them together. Use the 2 perimeter formulas to find the perimeter of the rectangle. So guys, you're going to take 20 plus 30 is 50 times 2 is 100. That would be using formula number 1. Okay, so you're going to do 20 plus 30, get 50, times 2 equals 100. The other way would be saying take 2 times 30 and take 2 times 20, and you would get 60 and 40, and then you would add them together and get 100. In this case, I think we are working with inches. Either way, guys, you get the exact same answer. So what they're saying is find which one works best for you and use it. Turning the page. These equivalent expressions illustrate the distributive property of multiplication over addition. We usually just call it the distributive property, but there's a big long definition. Often called the distributive property. Applying the distributive property, we distribute. We spread the multiplication over the terms that are being added or subtracted within the parentheses. In this case, we multiply length times 2 to give us 2 lengths, and we multiply width times 2 to give us 2 widths. So they passed it through. So whatever's on outside of the parentheses, you pass through to each one on the inside of the parentheses. So now look at what they did. The distributive property is often expressed in the equation using variables. A parentheses B plus C equals AB plus AC. It can also be done over subtraction. A with B minus C equals AB minus AC. Okay, now guys, what they're going to do is they're going to start out with numbers, and you're going to get the exact same answer. You're going to say, this is a waste. Why am I ever distributing first when I can just add them together or subtract them and then multiply them? The reason is we're getting you ready for algebra class. And in algebra class, guys, we distribute letters through. And we distribute letters through to find common terms. And so that's coming up down the road. So they're giving you this in lesson 41 so we can get used to it, that by the time we get near the end of our book and we start working with letters, we actually have to use the distributive property, because inside is not going to be 2 numbers, it's going to be 2 letters. And so they're going to use those things to solve it out. Okay, example 4. Show 2 ways to simplify this expression. So guys, as you're thinking, anytime you have properties, remember we always like, is this the commutative, the associative property, the identity, or inverse property? You just got a new one, so they're going to have this one to you. They'll give you example 4 a lot in your assignments. Show the 2 ways to do that. So they gave me 6, parenthesis, 20 plus 5. And what I just have to write out is what you would normally do, you would say do parentheses first. So you do 25 times 6 equals 150. The second way, guys, is to distribute it. I'll draw it for you. Distribute the 6 to the 20. That gives me 120. Distribute the 6 to the 5. That gives me 30. And then I add them together, and I get 150. So like when we're canceling in multiplication fractions, we say cancel. Divide first, guys, and then multiply. Or you could multiply and then reduce, which is dividing. It doesn't matter whether you divide, multiply, or multiply and divide. It doesn't matter if you add and then multiply or multiply and then add. You get the exact same answer, and it also works with subtraction, guys. Okay, example 5 tells me to simplify this. And so this is getting you ready, guys, for how we're going to use this in algebra class. I have 2 parenthesis 3 plus n parenthesis plus 4. Okay, and so you got this problem, and you're going to say, okay, what's 3 plus n? I don't know, what's 3 plus n? And you're set there with it. So this is how we do that, guys. I distribute the 2 through. I got 6 distributed here. What's 2 times n? I don't know, it's 2 of them. So I just do that. 2 times n is 2n. And now plus 4. Well, I can put these together, guys. 6 plus 4 equals 10. So I have 10 plus 2n. Usually in algebra class, we write that the other way around. We usually write 2n plus 10. Okay, now guys, the next step for you in your life will be this equals 16. And then you'd be able to take this thing and subtract it so we can figure out what n equals. Now, we don't have it equals 16 yet. But if you look at the top of the next page, guys, on page 299, you can see they gave it to you, you distributed, then you switched it around because they like having the letters at the beginning, commutative property. Then they put it back into groups so you could add together, the associative property. So look at that, guys, on how you simplify those equations because you're using the properties. Today we're adding the distributive property to it. So the distributive property is used a ton in algebra class. Very, very beneficial to us to be able to do those things. In your yellow folder, if you were looking at it, it was horribly written, and I apologize for that. What I wanted you to get at is parentheses on one side, which means it's not just a number, it's actually an equation. I would distribute. So I wrote the distributive property. And then parentheses on both sides. So in my head, and I apologize for the wording. I was thinking if you see a number that looks like this, 4 parentheses 6 plus 2. So there's only a parenthesis on one side of the number, then you would distribute it. If you see this with a 4 here and there's parentheses on both sides, that just means multiply. Okay, so that's what I was trying to get it at, where we've been having numbers in parentheses. So back to my yellow folder, when it's only on one side, I wrote the distributive property. When it's on the other side, I just wrote the word multiply. And you probably can't see that, but that's what I was trying to get at, if that helps you at all. I don't know if it does, but I like to have my yellow folder out there filling in the blanks so it'll help me do those things. Okay, you have some letters if you want to practice. You also have some practice on IXL, guys. Use IXL. It's a great benefit for you. We'll see you for the problems. Sixth grade, we're cruising on problems for lesson 41. The first one we're starting with is number 3. It said the crowd watched with anticipation as a pole vault bar was set to that many feet in inches. How many inches is that? Well, I got 19. I'm taking it times 12 inches in a foot. So that's 18. Carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. Add a 0. 19. Add together. 8, 12, 1. 228. But now I have to take that 228 and add my 6 inches to it, which gives me a 14 with a 3 and a 2. So it's 234 inches is how high the pole vault was set to. Number 4, which property is illustrated in these equations? A plus B plus C equals A plus B plus C. Same numbers, different things in parentheses. That's the associative property of addition. A times B times C equals A times B times C. Same letters, same order, different ones in parentheses. Associative property. So guys, they are just seen. Can you tell the difference between the associative property and letter C? A, B plus C equals AB plus AC. That's the distributive property, guys. That's from today. Now, one of the ways to recognize the distributive property in general is to say I start with parentheses and then parentheses go away. When parentheses go away, that's the distributive property. Okay, if parentheses stay there, guys, that's most likely the associative property. Number 5, draw a sketch to help you with this problem. From Tracy's house to John's house is 0.5 kilometers. 0.5 kilometers. From John's house to school is 0.8 kilometers. Tracy rode her bike from John's house and then to school. Later, she rode from school to John's house to her house. How far did she travel altogether? So she went from here to here to here to boop, right back. So this was the use of the distributive property. I am going to add first and get 1.3. And then I'm going to take that times 2 because she rode back. Gives me a 6 and a 2. She rode 2.6 kilometers. Okay. Turning the page, number 7. Oh, the fun. Look at that. A stem and leaf plot below shows the distribution of numbers of stamps collected by 20 stamp club members. Refer to the stem and leaf plot to answers number 7 and 8. Okay, number 7, find the median. Guys, they gave me 20 numbers, so I divide by 2, and I get 10. So I'm going to start counting from the top. 1, 2, a 4, a 5, a 6, another 6, a 7, an 8, a 9, and the next number is 30. That's 10. The one after that is also 30. And so, guys, no matter which direction I count from, I'd have 30 and 30. So letter A, what is the median? A equals 30. Now B, they want the first quartile. What I do is I take my 10, which was halfway, and I cut that in half, which is 5. So I start at the top again, and I count 5. 11, the 2 for 22, and then the 24, and then the 25, and then the 26, and the next one is also a 26. So the average of a 26 and a 26 is a 26, which gives me B. The third quartile, now guys, you're counting backwards from 5. So you start at the bottom with 40, 39, 37, 36, 35, and the next one after that is 34. So one was 35, the next one was 33. Sorry, I said 34, didn't I? It was 33. And so, guys, remember, if there's an even number, 10 is even, then it's going to be the average of the middle two. So I take 33 and 35 and find the middle of that, and that would be number 34. D says, is there an outlier? Well, I look at the first one, that's an 11. Is there anything else in the teens? No. I look at the last one, that's a 40. What's right after that? 39. That one's close. So is there an outlier for D? Yes, it's the first one. It's the number 11 because it's right next to it. Okay, now guys, you got these numbers here. These three are what I need to do for number 8. I need that 26, that 30, and that 34. Number 8 says, can you make your box and whisker plot from the thing? Okay, so here's my line, and I'm just going to do 10, 20, 30, and 40. The first number, the lower extreme, is 11. The upper extreme, the biggest number, is 40. Then I go back to my answers from this previous slide, guys. My median is 30, so I put a dot. My first quartile is 26, so I go back and I put a dot. And my last one, my upper quartile, is 34, so I put a dot. Now these middle three, I turn into lines and make my box. And then I go to my extreme. Okay. Guys, if we had a perfect example of how we want data, we want all these pieces right here, this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece, all to be the same size. That would tell you 1/4 of your students are here, 1/4 of your students are here, 1/4 here, 1/4 here, and they're all about the same. You can see this outlier, what it does, you see how big that line is. That tells you 1/4 of your students are spread way out. Okay, that's scary for a teacher, guys, when it comes to scores like that. Okay, moving on, number 9. It says refer to the figure at the right to answer A and B. What's the area? What's the perimeter? They give me an L shape. They gave me 8, and they gave me 8 over here. They gave me 4, and they gave me 5. Okay, guys, to do the area, I'm going to go like this. Circle the 8. That cuts that in half. So 8's on a horizontal, 4's on a horizontal. I subtracted to get 4. Multiply to figure out this area, that's 20. Multiply to figure out this area, that's 32. Add them together is 52. I believe I'm working with feet, so I have 52 feet squared. To find the perimeter, guys, it's an L-shaped, and I have the two bigs. I have the total vertical, I have the total horizontal. 8 plus 8 is 16, times 2 is 32 feet. And problem solved. Number 11. What is the sum of the first 4 prime numbers? That's a great question. First prime number is 2, then 3, then 5, then 7. Sum means add. 10, 7, 17. Number 12. Dimensions of the triangle at the right. Find the perimeter. Okay, so they gave you a triangle, guys. Perimeter is solid. So I grab my solid lines of 14, 13, and 15, and I add them together. 7, 5 is 12. Carry the 1, 1 on 1 is 4. 42, we're working with millimeters. Now I got area. Area is the dot, guys. Dot means multiply, and they have a 12 on the dotted line. So I take base times height. I'm multiplying those two numbers together and then dividing by 2. I'm going to divide by 2 first. So I have 12 times 7 because I can do that one division in my head. And I get 84 millimeters squared. Perimeter, area. Number 13. Use digits to write each number. 67 hundred thousandths. So I go tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths. Some of you like to work it backwards. You write 67 and you go 100 thousandths, 10,000, thousands, hundredths, tenths, decimal point 0. B, 100, 100, and decimal point. 23 thousandths, 23 thousandths, hundredths, tenths. You need to add that 0. Okay, flipping your answer key over. Number 17. I have x over 2.4 equals 10 over 16. Okay, I want to reduce this, guys, to 5/8. Then I can say 8 times 3 gave me 24. So 5 times 3 is 15, but it's not 15. It's 1.5. Number 19, missing something in addition. Anytime I'm missing an addition, I subtract. So I have 7 and 6 tenths minus 3 and 45 hundredths. Add a 0 so I can do the math. Becomes a 5/10. That's a 5, that's a 1, decimal point straight down. That's a 4, 4 and 15 hundredths. 22, I have 4 tenths, parentheses, times 6 tenths, parentheses, times 2 hundredths. Okay, 4 times 6 is 24, times 2 is 48. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, decimal point. So the math is a little bit easier, guys. I just have to count decimal points to make sure I get the right answer of 48 10,000ths. Down to number 27. I'm going to make them improper. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10 over 3. 2 times 8 is 16 plus 5 is 21 over 5. And 1 times 7 is 7 plus 3 is 10 over 7. Okay. 3 and 7 is 21, so they cancel each other out. I had wrote a 10 here instead of a 16. I'm sorry for that. Okay, 5 goes into 10 2 times. 16 fifths. What did I do here? 16. Okay, we're going to start that problem all over. I was forgetting my numbers there. So this is 16 fifths, not 16 thirds. This is 21/8, not 21/5. And this is 10/7. Hey, I got 1 out of the 3 right, guys. So ignore everything I just did. My goodness. Let's try all this again, please. 8 goes into 16 2 times. 5 goes into 10 2 times. And 7 goes into 21 3 times. The bottom is all destroyed, so 2 times 3 is 6 times 2 is 12. Hey, your answer for 27 is 12. I apologize for what I was doing. Number 29, it says compare and then which property. Now, guys, you can do all the math, but before you do all the math, always look to see if there's a B. That B says which property did you use? Notice how I distributed the 12 times 7 and 12 times 13 and add them together, guys. So that's the distributive property. So A, those two are going to be equal. Why? Because of the distributive property. So I don't really have to do the math, distributive, IVE. I don't have to do the math if I have a property that's coming out, guys, because all those properties equal each other. Commutative property, left, change the order, same on the right. Associatives, change the parentheses, still the same. So look for that shortcut. Awesome. And 30, find that missing measurements. They gave you this time a right angle and 42. I know a right angle is 90, so I add 42 to it, and I get 132. I need to find x and y and z. So x, y, and z. I subtract. Triangles always add up to 180. So I subtract 132 from it. Get an 8, get a 4. So I know x is 48. This forms a supplementary angle. So this plus something equals 180. Reverse order, 48 plus 132 gives me 180. This guy's 132. This plus this equals that. So 180 minus my 132 gives me back to the 48. They're degrees because they're angles. This, guys, from lesson 40 says they're vertical angles.